Taki Inoue has somewhat of a legendary status in the history of F1, not because of his blistering speed or record-breaking lap times, but instead because of the completely hilarious incident he's been involved in.
Oh, goodness gracious me, now that's absolutely appalling.
And his off-track personality, which is vibrant to say the least.
And also my leg is painful as well. Then toothache as well. I don't know why.
Inoue is heralded by many, including himself, as one of the worst drivers in the history of F1. But how did a driver this bad even end up racing in the pinnacle of motorsports in the first place? Taki Inoue was born in Kobe, Japan, and began his motorsport career in the Fuji Freshman Touring Car Series. After 2 unsuccessful years, Inoue traveled to the UK to enroll in the Jim Russell Racing School. His time here wasn't exactly marked by success, but somehow he still graduated to Formula Ford by the end of the year.
And welcome back to Sandown International Raceway, where we have the Formula Fords on
These early seasons aren't well documented, but from what I can find, Inoue struggled to keep his car on track and was dropped by his team at the end of the Formula Ford season. After returning home to Japan, Inoue competed in the Japanese F3 series. All you need to know is that over 4 years, Inoue's best finish was 4th, with his highest championship position being 9th. But these abysmal results didn't stop Taki from convincing a sponsor to pay for a seat in the European Formula 3000 series. Joining the David Sears Supernova team, Inoue was partnered with Vincenzo Sospiri, an Italian driver who, unlike Taki, was competent on track. Whilst Taki was unable to score any points all season, Sospiri mounted a bid for the championship, eventually placing 4th overall compared to Taki, who ranked 21st. So, after getting his ass handed to him all season, where would Taki go next? You guessed it, Formula 1. He made his first appearance in F1 during the 1994 season, with a one-off drive for the Simtek at the Japanese Grand Prix. His qualifying performance was nothing short of embarrassing, setting a time that was 3.4 seconds slower than his teammate David Brabham. The race didn't go much better, but to be fair to Taki, the conditions in Suzuka were treacherous, and like multiple other drivers, he ended up retiring from the race after losing control of his car.
It's just gone spinning down the pit lane. It's Taki Inoue. The conditions are now impossible.
After some alleged creative financial management, Taki raised $4.5 million to buy himself a seat at the Footwork Arrows F1 team for the 1995 season. Paired with Inoue was Gianna Morbidelli, an Italian driver with a solid racing career and previous F1 experience, so he would be setting the standard for Taki to match. So, the 1995 championship began in Brazil, and as you can expect, Taki's performance wasn't exactly breathtaking. When qualifying rolled around, Inoue was 2.7 seconds slower than his teammates. On race day, Inoue's fortunes didn't change. After a spin on track, Inoue received an illegal push start from the marshals, meaning he was set to be given the black flag, disqualifying him from the race. That didn't matter though, because Inoue's engine would blow up beforehand, ending the Japanese driver's race. The next leg of the championship in Argentina only got worse for Inoue. He qualified dead last with a time 10.2 seconds slower than his teammates. Unsurprisingly, his race didn't go any better, as he spun out and retired on lap 40.
And out spins Inoue.
The next race at Imola saw Inoue complete just 12 laps before spinning off again, and in Spain, engine failure ended his race early. The following weekend at Monaco was interesting, to say the least. During a free practice session, Inoue found himself down an escape road where he stalled his engine. Whilst being towed back to the pit lane, his footwork was hit from behind by the safety car at high speed, which caused the car to roll into the barriers upside down. Despite not having done up his seatbelts, Inoue escaped from the crash with only a mild concussion, which was incredibly lucky. Unfortunately for Inoue, his luck would run out on race day, as once again he retired, this time due to a gearbox failure. So, at this point in the season, Taki had competed in 5 races and hadn't finished a single one. While some of the retirements were down to the pitiful reliability of the footwork, it's undeniable that Inoue was far from what was expected of an F1 driver. But guess what? At the next race in Canada, the young Japanese driver finally did it. He finally finished a Grand Prix. But Taki's fortunes didn't last long. In France, he crashed into fellow Japanese driver Ukyo Katayama on the first lap, resulting in his retirement from the race. By the time Silverstone rolled around, the Footworks Arrows team was in need of another cash injection, so Taki's teammate Morbidelli was dumped, and a new driver, Max Papis, took his place. Like Taki, Papis wasn't exactly talented, but he did bring in money that the team desperately needed. Regardless, Silverstone was another unsuccessful race as Inoue spun out once again, and the following race in Germany was no better, as his car suffered from a gearbox failure. The next race in Hungary is by far the most iconic in Taki's entire career, and not in a good way. The weekend started well, with Taki even out-qualifying his teammates, but on race day, things took a slightly unexpected turn. After his footwork experienced yet another engine failure, Taki pulled to the side of the track and attempted to assist the marshals with extinguishing his car. But I think Taki forgot to open his eyes, because when he turned around, he ran straight into the path of the incoming safety car. After a landing which Taki later described as a perfect landing, 9.99, he then collapsed to the ground in pain. Luckily for Taki, he recovered in time for the following Belgium Grand Prix, where he again outqualified his teammate Papis. In the Grand Prix, he finished a race for the second time this season, securing 12th place. Monza would see Inoue grab his best finish of the season, as he drove his footwork to 8th place. But this didn't mean his weekend was incident-free. Whilst being lapped by Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill, Inoue inadvertently caused a crash between the two drivers, which saw them both retire from the race. Hill and Schumacher weren't exactly pleased.
The guy just changed lines twice in front of me, and then he moved out of the way again. I mean, the guy is... It's just ridiculous. That's the second time that happened to me in the race. It's ridiculous.
The following 4 races were much of the same, with him placing 15th, retiring twice, and securing 12th respectively. Inoue's woes weren't aided by the re-signing of his previous teammate Morbidelli for the final 3 races of the season, which saw the Japanese driver return to getting dunked on in every qualifying. At the final race in Australia, Inoue decided to end the season with a bang, and by bang, we mean literally, as he sent his car into the wall in this almost comical-looking crash.
Under braking, Michael Schumacher scares the daylights out of him. He sees him in his mirrors, locks up the rear brakes, gets on the curbs, kisses the concrete, and goes home for an early shower.
It's made even funnier by the fact Morbidelli went on to secure a podium in the same race. So, surely by this point, he would give up on his F1 dream, right? No. Despite being dropped by Footwork Arrows, he went on to sign with Minardi, buying a seat for $3 million through various sponsorships. But in a twist of fate, one of Inoue's sponsors awoke from their delusion and pulled out of the deal, leaving Taki without a seat for the following season. With his F1 career now over, Inoue returned home to Japan and competed in a few smaller championships before leaving his racing days behind him. So, in his entire racing career, Inoue had 0 wins, 0 podiums, and 0 poles. Nowadays, Inoue has embraced the jokes, and his legendary status is only boosted by his colourful personality, with quotes from the driver such as, "When balls move, brain is fine. If balls don't move, then there's a problem with brain damage, I think." So, whilst he may be one of the worst F1 drivers of all time, at least the guy has a sense of humour.